I went to the hospital to pick up my best friend's premarital examination report. Coincidentally, my ex-boyfriend was on duty. He opened the man's report. Too few in quantity and too poor in quality. There may be infertility. I gave a sweet smile. Just right. No need for precautions. My ex-boyfriend's face darkened instantly. My best friend Yo-Yo was hospitalized. I went to keep her company and run errands to pick up her premarital examination report by the way. I took the report and went to the 6th floor, wandering back and forth in front of the men's department clinic. I pretended to talk to myself and said in a moderate voice, "This is simply the premarital examination report of a high-quality man. Especially in terms of male function." Suddenly, the report in my hand was snatched away. Hugh came out, exuding an air as if someone owed him 8 million. He flipped through it casually. So casually that I suspected he hadn't even turned to that page. Too few in quantity, and too poor in quality. Prone to infertility. I smiled sweetly. Just right. No need for precautions. Hugh's face darkened on the spot. He stared at me for a long time before speaking. "I thought you had high requirements in that aspect." I replied quickly. "Yes. So I dumped you." I really underestimated the speed of news spreading in the hospital. As soon as I walked to the inpatient area upstairs, I heard the little nurses at the nurses' station discussing enthusiastically. "Is Drive Sue in the men's department really not good? But he is so handsome. I even voted for him in the last vote for the hospital's handsome guy." I couldn't help but join in. "You are still young. Men can't just look good. The key is to be useful." One of the little nurses looked at me suspiciously. "How do you know Drive Sue is not good?" "I am his ex-girlfriend." The little nurses suddenly understood. So this gossip changed from Drive Sue seems not good to Drive Sue's ex-girlfriend personally confirms that Drive Sue is not good. I returned to the ward satisfied. Yo-Yo was eating an apple with her feet dangling. Why did it take so long to pick up the report? I saved a wayward girl by the way. Don't waste your feelings on useless men. Yo-Yo gave me a sideways glance. I heard it all. Are you saving a wayward girl or driving away Hugh's admirers? Both. I admit that as an ex-girlfriend, I am not qualified enough. Not only did I not disappear completely like I was dead, but I even still had a glimmer of fantasy about him. From time to time, I would pop up to stimulate him. What if he takes the initiative to come to me for a reunion one day? Yo-Yo poked me on the forehead with one finger. "Come on." This cold and aloof male god was chased by you. It's already a great regret. And he will take the initiative to come to you for a reunion? You are really dreaming big. Before I could argue, there was a knock on the door. It was Hugh. He stood at the door, looking abstinent and handsome. "Jenny, come out with me." I had a bad premonition and held Yo-Yo's hand tightly and didn't let go. "Then shall I say it here?" Hugh threat, and without grace. The little nurses outside were still listening attentively. I didn't want to be embarrassed on the spot. Yo-Yo put the apple in her mouth and tried hard to break my hand. "Oh Yo-Yo, why didn't you stop him? How can you let me go alone so lie?" I'm not sure what lie means here. Maybe it should be, or something else. As soon as I walked to the stairwell, Hugh forced me against the wall. He put one hand on the wall, and the other in his pocket, wearing the most sacred clothes and making the most alluring pose. It's really a bit sexy. "I heard you tell others everywhere that I am not good." I nervously swallowed my saliva, and showed a fawning smile. "No. It's all their own understanding." "Then what should we do now?" The light in the stairwell spilled down from above. His long eyelashes cast a shadow. His thin lips were sharp and sexy. Suddenly, I became nervous. I will go and tell them that their understanding is wrong." His face enlarged in front of me. His deep and pleasant voice came from beside my ear. "For this kind of thing, only those who have experienced it have the right to speak. Try?" His breath when he spoke sprayed on the side of my neck. The warmth spread from my neck to my whole body. I felt my face was about to burn up. His lips slowly approached. I had nowhere to hide. Anyway, this is his workplace. It shouldn't be too excessive, right? Moreover, I had a little expectation. Thinking like this, I nervously closed my eyes. For a long time, the expected kiss didn't happen. Instead, I heard him chuckle. Useless. For I was flushed with anger at his teasing. I turned and left. When I returned to the ward, Yo-Yo had an understanding look. Heaven is going to rain. A mother is going to marry. A stubborn horse is going to eat the grass it once left behind. Can't stop it. Can't stop it. Who cares? Yo-Yo mysteriously leaned over. I have a premonition that you two can't break up. I was amused. You also think he can't forget me, right? I think you can't bear to part with him. Having my mind exposed. But it didn't stop me from being stubborn. Why can't it be that he takes the initiative to ask for a reunion? Even if a polar bear ate a penguin, he will never take the initiative to find you for a reunion. I didn't realize that my best friend is also a rhyming expert. Because Yo-Yo was getting married. She had moved out of the house we rented together before. So I found a 2-bedroom. 1 living room again. It was decorated simply and cleanly. I was going to move in today. When I dragged my suitcase to the new house, it was already evening. After packing all day, I was exhausted and just wanted to take a bath and go to sleep. Unfortunately, the weather didn't cooperate. There was no hot water halfway through my bath. I sighed with my head full of bubbles. Suddenly, I remembered that the agent said the landlord lived next door. So I summoned up my courage and went to borrow water from next door. The door opened quickly. A towel covering my hair blocked my eyes. I could only see the other person's long legs. I asked nervously. Hello. I rented your house and live opposite. There is no hot water at home. Can I use your bathroom? The landlord didn't speak. Probably it's not convenient. I'm embarrassed to wait any longer. Sorry to disturb. You knock on someone's door dressed like this? A familiar voice. Huh. What's wrong with dressing like this? Do you think everyone is like you? Thinking only about that kind of thing? He rolled his eyes and pulled me into the room. I meant, aren't you cold? Who's the one with a dirty mind? Choked by him, I pushed him aside and rushed straight to the bathroom. When I came out after taking a shower, Hugh was sitting on the sofa reading a book. Wearing glasses. He had a kind of a Chinese word that I'm not sure how to translate exactly. Maybe aesthetic of abstinence? Beauty. As someone who always likes to dance on Hugh's minefield. Just as I was about to take a step and walk over, I heard him say, "There's brown sugar ginger tea on the sink. Drink it before coming out." I looked back and saw the cup still steaming. Well, the person I arraigned is really considerate. But for the grudge during the day, I still have to get revenge. I sat down next to him with the cup. Landlord, did you deliberately break the water heater? Hugh looked up at me. Only then did I realize that my bathrobe was a bit loose. I quickly reached out and tightened it. No. It must be. You just want to bully me and make me come to you. Right? I continued with my dangerous remarks. During the day in the stairwell, I thought you could show your skills. Unexpectedly, Hugh grabbed the foot that was rubbing against his leg. Are you sure you want to provoke me? Seeing the dangerous look in his eyes, I gulped down the brown sugar water, put down the cup and quickly ran away, looking down at my reddish toe. Wow. So exciting. I'll dare to do it again next time. 5 I swear. I really didn't mean it. Hugh gave me 2 keys. But I was in a hurry and didn't bring any. I tentatively raised my hand and knocked on the door. It's me again. No movement. Open the door. The door suddenly opened from inside. He pulled me in and pressed me against the door. Do you really think I don't dare to do anything to you? He probably took a shower halfway. His hair was still wet. The smell on his body was the same as the shower gel I just used. Now it was quietly drilling into my nose. My heart was beating hard. It seemed that only my heartbeat was left in the whole world. I turned my face aside and said in a low voice, "I forgot to bring my keys." Hugh was silent for a second. It was about to turn and leave. I grabbed the corner of his clothes. "Can I sleep here for one night?" Hugh closed his eyes. "The bed sheet in the second bedroom hasn't been laid. There's a new one in my room. Go and get it." Oh. Hugh's bedroom is very simple. There are no redundant items. In sharp contrast to my room full of dolls. The faint woody fragrance soothed my nerves. I opened the closet. I didn't see the bed sheet at a glance. Just as I was about to ask him where it was, I glanced at the notebook on the table. There was a photo stuck in it. My heart pounded. I couldn't help reaching out and pulling out part of that photo. It was when we were together. I was sleeping on the table. He took this secretly. I held my breath. Does this mean that he still likes me? Last time I took the initiative to chase him. This time, it's his turn to chase me. As a new era woman, I can't take any losses. I was happily thinking about Hugh chasing me, and how I would make it difficult for him. I couldn't help laughing. The sound of the bathroom door opening came. I was startled and quickly put the photo back. "Didn't find it?" I nodded. Probably because my expression was a bit strange. He couldn't help looking at me more. He handed me the bed sheet. After a pause, he got up and went to the second bedroom to help me make the bed. I followed him happily. "Handsome guy. You're really so considerate. Can I hire you as a nanny?" Hugh didn't look back. I was about to say more when the door slammed in front of me. TCH. Such a TS undery. Click. The sound of locking rang behind me. I'm the one who's afraid of taking losses. Okay. 6 on the way to the airport the next day. I was so sleepy. There were also faint dark circles under Hugh's eyes. I really couldn't hold on anymore. I was about to sleep with my head against the window. Suddenly, the glass went down. My neck slipped down with it and finally jolted. This trick is really effective. I woke up immediately. I slapped him. Are you sick?" Hugh was still driving calmly. "Now you know you're sleepy?" Who was it that kept shouting, "Don't sleep. Don't sleep" last night? Well, it was me. But for this matter, I'm only a little responsible at most. The mistake was that I got up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet and went to the wrong door. But it's my first time staying here. It's normal to go wrong. Why did you lock the door? If he didn't lock the door, I wouldn't be unable to open it. If I could open it, I wouldn't be angry and kick the door. If I didn't kick the door, I wouldn't be completely sleepless. If I wasn't completely sleepless, of course I wouldn't drag him and insist on talking about medical cases. The consequence of talking about male medical cases is naturally that the more I listen, the more curious I become. The angrier he gets. And the brighter the sky gets. So we started a beautiful day early. Today is the day when my younger brother Ted returns to the country. I really miss him after not seeing him for many years. Ted is a common friend of mine and Hugh. But speaking of it, their relationship is a bit better. Ted is Hugh's childhood friend. And I'm just a lovesick fool who covets Hugh's good looks and wants to approach Hugh through Ted. So I often feel sad about Ted's role as a tool. Especially when I chased Hugh, and there was only him left as a single dog among the 3 musketeers. In the end, I couldn't bear to tell him the truth because I found that I had unconsciously regarded him as a friend. After all, compared to Hugh who wants to control everything about me and goes against me all the time, he is so obedient. He is so obedient that if you ask him to buy Shanghai Dama, he wouldn't dare to buy Hashang Yai. So, I reasonably suspect that the reason why Hugh can become good friends with him is that he is always bullied. I was eager to help him stand up for himself. So as soon as I saw him, I put my arm around his shoulder and said, "Did you bring me a gift?" Yes. Yes. There are gifts for you and Brother Zhu. That won't do. Mine has to be more than his. Okay. Let me introduce first. This is Light Junior's sister. Only then did I notice that there was a girl following behind him. I looked back and forth between the two of them. What's the relationship between you two? Ted quickly explained. No. It's a very pure relationship of senior and junior sister. The junior sister greeted us one by one generously. When it came to Hugh, her gaze obviously lingered for 2 more seconds before moving away. 7. Ted's whole family lives abroad. The house in China hasn't been cleaned for a long time. So he decided to stay at Hugh's place for 2 days first. The junior sister will stay at my house. After settling the 2 people, Hugh and I went to the nearby supermarket to buy groceries. As I threw ingredients into the shopping cart, I pretended to ask casually, "That little junior sister is quite beautiful." Just so. Do you two get along well? You were chatting warmly with Ted with your arms around his shoulders. Do you still know if we get along or not? You know about me and Ted. It's always been like this. Nothing else. Hugh paused in his steps. Only then did I realize that I seemed to be explaining something. And this scene is on the same topic as the quarrel before the breakup. I suddenly felt uneasy and wanted to go forward to explain. But Hugh had already spoken. Yes. We are friends. He didn't talk to me anymore along the way. Hugh is very possessive. When we were together before, even if I casually praised a guy for being really good looking, he would immediately pull a long face. During the quarrel at the breakup, it was because he thought the senior brother in the same group had a crush on me. But I was completely unaware and thought he was being unreasonable. This time even Ted is not okay. When he got home, the atmosphere was still very low. Even the junior sister came and asked me in a low voice, "What's wrong with Brother Zhu?" Hearing this Brother Zhu from her mouth made me feel very uncomfortable. It's nothing. He's moody. You'll get used to it. Oh. But he's so handsome. The junior sister looked at his back with an infatuated face. Just like I did back then. My heart skipped a beat. What's so handsome? He's already past his prime. Sister song. Do you like Brother Zhu? Me? Of course not. I looked at Hugh guiltily. He didn't react. The junior sister seemed relieved. That's great. I can pursue him freely. Well, actually, he's not easy to pursue. Not only is his temper bad, but he also doesn't respect women and is particularly androgynous. To prove my words, I secretly threw the snack bag I just ate onto the clean ground. It doesn't matter. Can she tolerate this? Are girls who come back from abroad also generous? Hugh is good at cooking. But as if deliberately making things difficult for me, he piled all the dishes I like in front of the junior sister. The junior sister beamed with joy and kept thanking him. Hugh smiled faintly and gracefully. I thought girls should like to eat these. I bit my chopsticks and watched the 2 of them interacting. I couldn't help but turn to Ted and say, "Sister gives you a task. Make the junior sister your girlfriend. Okay?" Ted obviously couldn't follow my train of thought. We are really not in that kind of relationship. You two can be. We really are not. No talking during meals or when sleeping. If you have something to say it after the meal. Hugh ended this tug of war. I was very unconvinced in my heart. What's this? Only he can talk to her. But I can't talk to Ted? So domineering. I cursed Hugh 10,000 times in my heart. But I didn't dare to say a word out loud. After all, he was still angry. Even when we were still together. I didn't dare to speak when he was angry. Let alone now. Are you going to eat? Hugh tapped on my chopsticks that were holding the fish head. The fish head has been poked by you into a fishing net. In the evening. The junior sister wanted to borrow something from next door. I knew very well in my heart. What could a girl borrow from 2 big men? But I didn't have the position to say no. It was already 11 o'clock at night. And she still hadn't come back. I washed up early and lay on the bed. But I couldn't fall asleep, no matter what. My mind was full of the way Hugh and she were chatting and laughing in the afternoon. So I irritably threw off the quilt and wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But as soon as I got up, I paused. What right did I have to question him? I suddenly understood how Hugh felt when he saw me with my senior brother before. In the past, I didn't know how to pay attention to keeping a distance. I always thought that as long as I didn't like others, it would be fine. But I never considered Hugh's feelings. And with his face, there are countless ambiguities and admirations. But he never made me angry because of such things. In the end, I was too immature. My heart was filled with a sour and swollen feeling. I was full of guilt and regret, and couldn't help shedding tears. I wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear, but I couldn't summon up the courage. At this time, I envied that junior sister instead. She liked someone so frankly. There was the sound of the door opening outside. I quickly turned off the light and lay down. The footsteps were very light, but it could be heard that they were coming towards my room. What was she doing in my room? There's no way I could say no. It was already 11 o'clock at night, and she still hadn't come back. I washed up early and lay on the bed, but I couldn't fall asleep no matter what. My mind was full of the way Hugh and she were chatting and laughing in the afternoon. So I irritably threw off the quilt and wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But as soon as I got up, I paused. What right did I have to question him? I suddenly understood how Hugh felt when he saw me with my senior brother before. In the past, I didn't know how to pay attention to keeping a distance. I always thought that as long as I didn't like others, it would be fine. But I never considered Hugh's feelings. And with his face, there are countless ambiguities and admirations. But he never made me angry because of such things. In the end, I was too immature. My heart was filled with a sour and swollen feeling. I was full of guilt and regret, and couldn't help shedding tears. I wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear, but I couldn't summon up the courage. At this time, I envied that junior sister instead. She liked someone so frankly. There was the sound of the door opening outside. I quickly turned off the light and lay down. The footsteps were very light, but it could be heard that they were coming towards my room. What was she doing in my room? There's no way I could say no. It was already 11 o'clock at night, and she still hadn't come back. I washed up early and lay on the bed, but I couldn't fall asleep no matter what. My mind was full of the way Hugh and she were chatting and laughing in the afternoon. So I irritably threw off the quilt and wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But as soon as I got up, I paused. What right did I have to question him? I suddenly understood how Hugh felt when he saw me with my senior brother before. In the past, I didn't know how to pay attention to keeping a distance. I always thought that as long as I didn't like others, it would be fine. But I never considered Hugh's feelings. And with his face, there are countless ambiguities and admirations. But he never made me angry because of such things. In the end, I was too immature. My heart was filled with a sour and swollen feeling. I was full of guilt and regret, and couldn't help shedding tears. I wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear, but I couldn't summon up the courage. At this time, I envied that junior sister instead. She liked someone so frankly. There was the sound of the door opening outside. I quickly turned off the light and lay down. The footsteps were very light, but it could be heard that they were coming towards my room. What was she doing in my room? There's no way I could say no. It was already 11 o'clock at night, and she still hadn't come back. I washed up early and lay on the bed, but I couldn't fall asleep no matter what. My mind was full of the way Hugh and she were chatting and laughing in the afternoon. So I irritably threw off the quilt and wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But as soon as I got up, I paused. What right did I have to question him? I suddenly understood how Hugh felt when he saw me with my senior brother before. In the past, I didn't know how to pay attention to keeping a distance. I always thought that as long as I didn't like others, it would be fine. But I never considered Hugh's feelings. And with his face, there are countless ambiguities and admirations. But he never made me angry because of such things. In the end, I was too immature. My heart was filled with a sour and swollen feeling. I was full of guilt and regret, and couldn't help shedding tears. I wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But I couldn't summon up the courage. At this time, I envied that junior sister instead. She liked someone so frankly. There was the sound of the door opening outside. I quickly turned off the light and lay down. The footsteps were very light, but it could be heard that they were coming towards my room. What was she doing in my room? There's no way I could say no. It was already 11 o'clock at night, and she still hadn't come back. I washed up early and lay on the bed. But I couldn't fall asleep no matter what. My mind was full of the way Hugh and she were chatting and laughing in the afternoon. So I irritably threw off the quilt and wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But as soon as I got up, I paused. What right did I have to question him? I suddenly understood how Hugh felt when he saw me with my senior brother before. In the past, I didn't know how to pay attention to keeping a distance. I always thought that as long as I didn't like others, it would be fine. But I never considered Hugh's feelings. And with his face, there are countless ambiguities and admirations. But he never made me angry because of such things. In the end, I was too immature. My heart was filled with a sour and swollen feeling. I was full of guilt and regret, and couldn't help shedding tears. I wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But I couldn't summon up the courage. At this time, I envied that junior sister instead. She liked someone so frankly. There was the sound of the door opening outside. I quickly turned off the light and lay down. The footsteps were very light, but it could be heard that they were coming towards my room. What was she doing in my room? There's no way I could say no. It was already 11 o'clock at night, and she still hadn't come back. I washed up early and lay on the bed. But I couldn't fall asleep no matter what. My mind was full of the way Hugh and she were chatting and laughing in the afternoon. So I irritably threw off the quilt and wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But as soon as I got up, I paused. What right did I have to question him? I suddenly understood how Hugh felt when he saw me with my senior brother before. In the past, I didn't know how to pay attention to keeping a distance. I always thought that as long as I didn't like others, it would be fine. But I never considered Hugh's feelings. And with his face, there are countless ambiguities and admirations. But he never made me angry because of such things. In the end, I was too immature. My heart was filled with a sour and swollen feeling. I was full of guilt and regret, and couldn't help shedding tears. I wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But I couldn't summon up the courage. At this time, I envied that junior sister instead. She liked someone so frankly. There was the sound of the door opening outside. I quickly turned off the light and lay down. The footsteps were very light, but it could be heard that they were coming towards my room. What was she doing in my room? There's no way I could say no. It was already 11 o'clock at night, and she still hadn't come back. I washed up early and lay on the bed. But I couldn't fall asleep no matter what. My mind was full of the way Hugh and she were chatting and laughing in the afternoon. So I irritably threw off the quilt and wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But as soon as I got up, I paused. What right did I have to question him? I suddenly understood how Hugh felt when he saw me with my senior brother before. In the past, I didn't know how to pay attention to keeping a distance. I always thought that as long as I didn't like others, it would be fine. But I never considered Hugh's feelings. And with his face, there are countless ambiguities and admirations. But he never made me angry because of such things. In the end, I was too immature. My heart was filled with a sour and swollen feeling. I was full of guilt and regret, and couldn't help shedding tears. I wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But I couldn't summon up the courage. At this time, I envied that junior sister instead. She liked someone so frankly. There was the sound of the door opening outside. I quickly turned off the light and lay down. The footsteps were very light, but it could be heard that they were coming towards my room. What was she doing in my room? There's no way I could say no. It was already 11 o'clock at night, and she still hadn't come back. I washed up early and lay on the bed. but I couldn't fall asleep no matter what. My mind was full of the way Hugh and she were chatting and laughing in the afternoon. So I irritably threw off the quilt and wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But as soon as I got up, I paused. What right did I have to question him? I suddenly understood how Hugh felt when he saw me with my senior brother before. In the past, I didn't know how to pay attention to keeping a distance. I always thought that as long as I didn't like others, it would be fine. But I never considered Hugh's feelings. And with his face, there are countless ambiguities and admirations. But he never made me angry because of such things. In the end, I was too immature. My heart was filled with a sour and swollen feeling. I was full of guilt and regret, and couldn't help shedding tears. I wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear, but I couldn't summon up the courage. At this time, I envied that junior sister instead. She liked someone so frankly. There was the sound of the door opening outside. I quickly turned off the light and lay down. The footsteps were very light, but it could be heard that they were coming towards my room. What was she doing in my room? There's no way I could say no. It was already 11 o'clock at night, and she still hadn't come back. I washed up early and lay on the bed, but I couldn't fall asleep no matter what. My mind was full of the way Hugh and she were chatting and laughing in the afternoon. So I irritably threw off the quilt and wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear. But as soon as I got up, I paused. What right did I have to question him? I suddenly understood how Hugh felt when he saw me with my senior brother before. In the past, I didn't know how to pay attention to keeping a distance. I always thought that as long as I didn't like others, it would be fine. But I never considered Hugh's feelings. And with his face, there are countless ambiguities and admirations. But he never made me angry because of such things. In the end, I was too immature. My heart was filled with a sour and swollen feeling. I was full of guilt and regret, and couldn't help shedding tears. I wanted to go find Hugh and make things clear, but I couldn't summon up the courage. At this time, I envied that junior sister instead. She liked someone so frankly. There was the sound of the door opening outside. I quickly turned off the light and lay down. The footsteps were very light, but it could be heard that they were coming towards my room. What was she doing in my room? There's no way I could say no. It was already 11 o'clock at night, and she still hadn't come back. I washed up early and lay on the bed, but I couldn't fall asleep no matter what. My mind was full of the way Hugh and she were chatting and laughing in the afternoon. So I irritably threw off the quilt and I tightly clenched the quilt. I know you're not asleep. Hugh turned on the light and sat down by my bed. He carefully examined my face by the light. Have you been crying? Hearing his voice, the tears I had managed to hold back welled up again. Aren't you having a great time chatting with your beautiful junior female schoolmate? Why bother about me? Hugh was a bit helpless. He raised his hand and wiped away my tears. Where was I having a great time? This afternoon you were smiling. And you chatted with her until so late. No. Ted and the others were talking about the group assignment. Seeing that she didn't want to leave, I simply let her sleep there and came over here. She didn't want to leave. It's still because of you. All right. Hugh pulled me into his arms. Obviously you care about me. But there's not a single nice word coming out of your mouth. Who cares about you? What right do I have to care about you? Suddenly, Hugh pulled me away and cupped my face. What kind of status do you want? Before I could answer, Hugh's lips gently touched mine. My face was burning hot. I'm sorry. I will pay attention to keeping a distance from other guys in the future, including Ted. He was very satisfied with my reaction. You are so obedient tonight. This way, I can't help but want to bully you. I never knew that Hugh's face could still be so good looking up close. When he pressed me down, I was completely ready. But he didn't take the next step. He just patted my head and told me to go to sleep early. I was actually a bit disappointed. A few days ago, he was still saying menacingly that he would prove it to me. Why didn't he seize this great opportunity tonight? I didn't let him go. But he coaxed me while pulling his hand out and turned to go to the next room. 9. As soon as I woke up the next day, I ran into Hugh's room barefoot. I had long forgotten that we were just exes who had broken up. The ambiguity last night was a sweetness that hadn't been there for a long time. I missed that feeling very much. Lying in bed and tossing and turning, I found that what I missed was every minute and every second with Hugh. He was so good. But I easily said the words break up, because of my petty temper. Since I was more in the wrong, of course I should take more initiative. When I opened the door, Hugh was still sleeping, even in his dream. He had a serious expression. His beautiful eyebrows were slightly wrinkled. I couldn't help but raise my hand and touch his brow. I lifted the quilt and got in. He was obviously impatient. But after seeing that it was me, his expression softened all at once. Did you miss me last night? What do you think? He had just woken up. His voice was hoarse and pleasant to hear. There was also a suspicious blush on the tip of his ear. I chuckled. Thinking about one's girlfriend is not an excessive thing. After a long time, Hugh said, "We can't be together for the time being." Why? Hugh's answer was ambiguous. But I lost patience to listen. If we can't be together, then what was last night's tenderness for? And what about the photos in the notebook? Before coming here, I told myself to be more proactive. But after being rejected, any further initiative is redundant. I understand this truth very well. I suddenly got up and ran away. Hugh hurriedly called my name. I stopped. After all, I was still not willing to give up. You. Put on your shoes. The ground is cold. When Ted and the junior female schoolmate came over, I had already adjusted my mood. It's just being rejected in a confession. It's no big deal. Not to mention, that was not a very obvious confession. Probably Ted said something to the junior female schoolmate. She came over and whispered an apology. "Sister, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you and Brother Zoo. There's nothing to apologize for," I said in a neither loud nor soft voice. "We have already broken up. If you like him, go after him. I won't mind." Hugh glanced at me. The hand holding the cup tightened. But in the end, he said nothing. Seeing that the atmosphere was not right, Ted quickly pulled the junior female schoolmate and said, "My house was cleaned up yesterday. The junior female schoolmate has also found a house. Well, we'll leave first. I'll go with you." I got up. Today is Yo-Yo's day to be discharged from the hospital. She is an army wife. Her parents are not here. Since her husband can't come, I have to go. 10 for several weeks in a row. Hugh and I didn't see each other. Although we lived in adjacent rooms, we could always perfectly avoid each other's time to go out. I don't know if this can be considered a kind of tacit understanding. In the blink of an eye, it was Yo-Yo's wedding day. I stood by the side of the stage and tilted my head to look for Hugh's figure among the guests. Yo-Yo said that she had also sent an invitation to him. He had given a gift and said that he would come if he had time. On the day of choosing the bridesmaid dress, I deliberately chose this strapless short skirt. Judging from Hugh's personality, seeing me dressed like this, he wouldn't be indifferent. I wanted to see him jealous. I wanted to see him pull me aside in a burst of possessiveness and say go and change. I wanted to see him angrily put his coat on me. Then I would go on stage with the coat on to catch the bouquet. I had told Yo-Yo in advance to let me win easily when throwing the bouquet. I would use it to confess to Hugh if the above scenes occurred. Unfortunately, nothing happened. Probably he hasn't seen me yet. Once I go on stage, and become the focus of attention, he will react. Right? Today's shoes are not very suitable. The heels always come off. But I can't pay attention to that because I am searching for that familiar figure all over the place. When Yo-Yo saw my bare shoulders, there was more inquiry in her eyes. I gently shook my head. But the bouquet was still thrown in my direction. I didn't catch it. Hugh didn't come at all. He didn't even want to see me again. So there is no such thing as tacit understanding. It's just that he is deliberately avoiding me. I had thought that he would coax me, ignore me, or even scold me. I had also thought about acting coquille, apologizing, and making promises to him. But the only thing I didn't expect was that he wouldn't come directly. I felt very frustrated. Like punching the air. At night, I drank a lot of wine and seemed to be even more drunk than the bride. When Yo-Yo heard that all I was mumbling was about Hugh, she took out her phone and called him. In one sentence. Do you still care about Jenny? If not, I will never bother you about her affairs again. I vaguely heard Hugh say on the phone. Where is she? When Hugh took me from Yo-Yo, he frowned. Why did you drink so much? I leaned on him limply like I had no bones. Liar. I have a very bad drinking habit. Hugh knows this. When we got home, I held his waist and wouldn't let go no matter what. He was helpless. I'll pour you some water. Let's go together. So I stuck to his back and followed him wherever he went. Now I need to go to the toilet. Go ahead. I'm behind you. You're so tall. I can't see. You cover your eyes. Taking advantage of the moment I let go, Hugh quickly slipped into the toilet. I put down my hand and saw that there was no one in front of me. I couldn't help crying loudly. Hugh is a big liar. He said he would never leave me. But now he's secretly run away. Liar. Hearing my commotion, Hugh hurriedly came out of the toilet. I didn't leave. I'm here. Shall we wash our faces and go to sleep? No. If I fall asleep, you'll leave. No. I won't. Then sleep with me. Okay. 11. Under the influence of alcohol, I pestered Hugh and made a mess of my clothes. Listening to his breathing getting heavier and heavier in my ear, I felt a great sense of accomplishment. Haven't you always wanted to prove it to me? Haven't you said you can't hold back for long? I love you. Please. The marks on my body told me that everything last night was not a dream. When I woke up, Hugh was not in the room. So I ran to the next room to look for him. Too lazy to knock on the door, I directly used the key he gave me to open the door. There was no one inside. Even his clothes and luggage were gone. I suddenly felt as if I had fallen into an ice cave. The warmth of last night was still in front of my eyes. But he left without a word. I couldn't understand. When I returned home in a daze, I found a note left on the table. He was going to transfer both houses to my name. Last night, when I was emotional, he coaxed me to sign on several pieces of paper. At that time, I was in a trance. My heart and eyes were full of him. How could I care about anything else? Now I understand that all this was prepared by him long ago. This is a long-planned departure. Yesterday's alcohol gave me a headache. I had no energy and didn't want to think about why he did this. To save this relationship, I've done everything I could. I also have dignity and can't keep being humble all the time. Looking at the paper on the table, I smiled self-deprecating lie. It's not a total loss. Yo-Yo called. How is it? Did it work? For a moment, I didn't know how to answer. Didn't work? We did have physical intimacy. Worked? But he left me. Just a fleeting relationship. Yo-Yo, hearing my silence, advised, in that case, it's better to make plans early. You can't hang on one tree. This time when I got married, my husband brought many soldiers. Maybe there's one you like? Looking at the messy bed, I couldn't help thinking of the way he panted in my ear last night. And then I thought about what his reaction would be if he knew that I went to see the soldier I once said I wanted to marry most. I was used to having him by my side, and had never considered the scene of having someone else accompany me. Even after breaking up, I stubbornly believed that there was still affection between us. It's just that because we were young and impulsive, neither of us was willing to give in, and neither was willing to bow down. I thought that as long as I took the initiative first, things would turn around. But now, it seems that I must learn to accept others. Jenny? I replied. Okay. 12 in addition to soldiers. Yo-Yo also set up many gatherings for me. My family also hinted and probed me several times and introduced several blind date partners for me to meet. All ended without results. I really want to seriously try to accept others. But I can't. Yo-Yo asked me. Don't be stupid. Are you not going to get married and find a husband for the rest of your life? I held the medical record in my hand. Take it one step at a time. After Hugh left, under the pretext of accompanying Yo-Yo for a follow-up visit, I deliberately walked past his office door but never saw him. Later I learned that he had resigned. To avoid me. Did he have to leave so thoroughly? Since then, I never went to that hospital again. There were many people queuing up outside the color ultrasound room. I looked around boredly. A familiar figure appeared at the corner of the stairs, sitting in a wheelchair. I had thought of 10,000 ways to meet and also envisioned 10,000 postures to deal with it. But I never expected that even just a back view would be enough to disrupt all my decisions. What dignity! What giving up! All collapsed at that moment. I ran over quickly. Hugh! I shouted at the top of my lungs. Passers-by and medical staff looked over here. The person's back obviously stiffened. I ignored their strange looks and ran over quickly. Is this the reason you rejected me? Hugh didn't speak and looked away after glancing at me. The middle-aged woman beside him seemed to be afraid of delaying something. She hurriedly urged. Do the matching first. Talk later when you come out. After saying that, she pushed the wheelchair and was about to leave. I keenly caught a word and grabbed the wheelchair handle. Look at me. What on earth happened? I asked word by word. Seeing that she couldn't persuade me, Hugh gave in. Mom, let me talk to her. After I finish, I'll go in. The woman was stunned for a moment and then let go. He turned his wheelchair to face me. I couldn't hold back any longer and threw myself into his arms, crying bitterly. All kinds of complex emotions such as astonishment, worry, and joy were vented in the crying. He gently stroked my long hair. Don't cry. Let me go in peacefully. Okay? I held him tightly, afraid that he would disappear as soon as he went in. Seeing that I was too excited, Yo-Yo pulled me and reminded me softly. Be careful of your body. Hugh's voice was very gentle. It's just a matching test. After I come out, I will tell you everything exactly. I sat on the bench, staring closely at the closed door, afraid of missing any movement. During the waiting process, I understood why Hugh left even though he loved me. But I couldn't understand why he was willing to ruin his own body. For money? I was still foolishly analyzing this most unlikely result. Judging from the 2 houses he left for me, there was no need to sell a kidney to make a living. Just when I was thinking wildly, Hugh was pushed out. 13. He closed his eyes and looked a little weak. I couldn't bear to look at him more and followed him to the ward. There was another bed in the ward, and on it lay Hugh's elder brother who had a different father. In the calm narration of the middle-aged woman, I understood the whole story. She was Hugh's mother. Hugh's elder brother had uremia. At first, the treatment effect was good. But later the condition worsened, and he needed a kidney transplant. So they set their sights on Hugh. I had mixed feelings. I didn't know whether I should be glad that he was still healthy or feel sad for his fate. Push me out for a walk. Hugh sat up. The sky was getting dark, and the wind was a bit cold on the body. I pushed him and sat down on the bench. Hugh grabbed my hand that was pulling the blanket for him, and apologized to me. I'm sorry. I was not angry long ago. I just felt very sorry for him. Why didn't you tell me? What should I tell you? Tell you that I was born a spare? I hugged him tightly. No. It's not like that. Hugh's voice was calm. Big Brother's biological father died of uremia when he was born not long ago. My mother heard that uremia might be hereditary, so she was always worried about Big Brother's body. In order to have one more possible source of kidney donation, she married my dad and soon gave birth to me. As she wished. I am very healthy. When I was young, I always didn't know why in other families it was the elder brother who gave in to the younger brother. But I always had to give in to my elder brother. Later, when I was fighting for a toy with my elder brother, he told me that I had no right to compete with him at all. Because without him, I might not even be born. Not long after that, my elder brother fell ill and was diagnosed. I finally knew my mission, which was to provide a healthy kidney for my elder brother. Of course, my dad didn't agree when he was alive. After he died in a car accident last year, this matter was put on the agenda. I didn't agree at first. When I broke up with you at that time, I impulsively nodded. Later, I regretted it countless times. But when I saw my sick elder brother and my crying mother, I couldn't say the words of refusal. Until I saw you just now, I realized what an absurd decision I had made. My family is harmonious and happy. It's hard to imagine how he spent that dark time when he was a teenager. It turned out that all these years, Hugh has been regarded as an organ culture dish. No wonder he is so insecure, and has such a strong possessiveness. No wonder when I first met him, he always had a cold face and didn't like to talk. I hugged him even tighter. From now on, you are mine. You have to ask me about everything and can't make decisions on your own. I'm not without kindness. But even if we want to donate a kidney, we can't donate it to such a person. This time it's a kidney. What about next time? If his elder brother wants a heart or a brain, should he also compromise because of the bondage of family affection? Moreover, it seems that they don't have any family affection for Hugh at all. We can give as much money as we want, but we won't donate. Okay? Hugh stroked my hair and agreed in a low voice. Okay. When we returned to the ward, there was no one inside. Compared with the care his elder brother received, Hugh seemed much more pitiful. I was very distressed and took him home. 14 I was afraid that he would leave like that night. I held his arm tightly and, even though I was extremely sleepy, I kept my eyes open and refused to sleep. Hugh was helpless. Now you are two people. If you don't consider yourself, you should also consider the child in your belly. You know everything? Hugh nodded gently. If you don't want to keep him, I will also. I quickly covered his mouth. Don't talk nonsense. The child will hear it. You have to take good care of us from now on and can't despise yourself anymore. I kept repeating this matter, fearing that he would change his mind again. If you have a similar idea again, I will be a single mother and never marry for the rest of my life. When the child is scolded for having no father to raise him, and I am scolded for being shameless and be looked down upon and spurned in this world. I was about to say more when Hugh's kiss blocked my mouth. He murmured, "No, never again." When I woke up in the morning, there was still residual warmth beside me, but there was no one there. The scene of the past reappeared. I quickly turned over and got out of bed and ran out barefoot. But I saw Hugh standing on the balcony, as if he had just finished making a phone call. I was relieved. When he turned around and saw me, he came over and picked me up. Can you change the habit of running without shoes? It's not that you have a previous record. I'm afraid that you will disappear again like last time, leaving me two empty houses. I'm sorry. Really not again. From last night to today, he has been apologizing and making promises. Seeing his guilt, I didn't want to dwell on this matter. But Brother Sue is so generous. He gave me 2 houses for sleeping with me for one night. I didn't expect my price to be so high. Hugh frowned and didn't allow me to say such things about myself. What nonsense are you talking all day long? I stuck out my tongue and acted Coco's lie. I'm hungry. He put on my shoes for me and then put me down. He turned and went to the kitchen. You eat first later. I have to go to the hospital. I didn't agree. I want to go too. Seeing that I insisted, Hugh had to agree. Hugh's elder brother was very weak lying on the hospital bed. His mother seemed to have aged a lot overnight. I should be soft-hearted. But I wasn't. When Mom is not easy. Then she cried with snot and tears. If I hadn't been used to watching melodramas, I would really have been deceived. Hugh had a tense face and handed over tissues. But he no longer agreed. Seeing that he refused to nod, Aunt Boo's idea turned to me. Normal people only need one kidney. Then you cut one off first? Remembering Hugh's past experiences, I really had no good feelings for her. Probably didn't expect my answer to be so ruthless. Aunt Sue was stunned again. Seeing that I was unmoved, she threw herself beside her eldest son's bed and cried, saying things like "Mom is sorry for you, and Mom gave birth to you but can't save you." I just watched her performance quietly. Hugh had a complicated expression and turned his head, unable to bear looking anymore. When she had no strength left to cry, I said, "Aunt Sue, there is fate between people. If your fate with your eldest son is shallow, it's useless to force it. As for Hugh, from now on, he is no longer your son. He is my person, my husband, and the father of my child. Without my consent, he will not agree to your such unreasonable request. If your eldest son needs money for treatment, I will give as much as needed. But if you have any ideas about Hugh, I can do anything. You are a lonely woman who has been taking care of your eldest son at home all these years and knows nothing about other things. Hugh is soft-hearted and remembers your kindness in raising him. But I am different. I am involved in both legal and illegal matters." Aunt Sue looked up at me in shock. Probably didn't expect that although I am petite, my words are so fierce and domineering. If one day your eldest son passes away, and you still have some attachment to this world, I can fulfill filial piety for Hugh on his behalf. Auntie, after so many years, it's time to think about yourself. 15 on the way back. Hugh looked at me strangely, thinking of my high-profile boasting just now. I couldn't help blushing. He chuckled. I should have remembered earlier. When I first met you, you were a domineering little tiger. At that time, Hugh was bullied by his classmates. Even when it wasn't his duty day, he was arranged to do it. I couldn't stand it and stood in front of him, holding my head high and standing up for him. After scolding those people away, I found that this boy behind me was extremely handsome. So I blushed and asked, "What's your name?" That's how our story began. The next day, the hospital called. Aunt Sue checked her eldest son out of the hospital. Not long after, the eldest son passed away. Aunt Sue swallowed a large amount of sleeping pills, held his hand, and left too. From learning the news to arranging the funeral, Hugh had been very calm. I walked up to him but didn't know how to comfort him for a moment. He looked up at me and took my hand. "I'm fine. I was just thinking that maybe I am not important at all to her." Aunt Sue spent her whole life taking care of her eldest son. Even when she died, she had no reluctance to part with Hugh. "It's not your fault. It doesn't matter. You still have me." I suddenly remembered something and originally wanted to tell him. But now I couldn't open my mouth no matter what. "What's wrong?" Seeing my hesitation, Hugh asked softly. "In fact, the report you saw that day was Yo-Yo's. I'm not pregnant." I spoke carefully. That day I went to accompany Yo-Yo for her prenatal checkup. I myself went to see a traditional Chinese medicine doctor because of my irregular menstruation. The traditional Chinese medicine doctor said that I was worried and depressed and my emotions should not fluctuate too much, especially not to be angry. I thought he would be disappointed. But unexpectedly he was very calm. "I know. Then you." At that time, in order to make him not agree to donate a kidney, seeing that he was, I took advantage of the situation and lied to him. Sure enough, after hearing that there was a child, he gave up this idea. But now, even the child is fake. Will he feel that there is nothing to be attached to in this world? He pulled me into his arms. "I am already very satisfied with just having you. If you like children, we can have them again. If not, it doesn't matter. As long as you are here." 16 I had no idea about Hugh's proposal that day. It was just that my dad specially fished out that big fish that showed off his fishing skills from the tank. which made me feel that this matter was very unusual. It wasn't his first visit. I couldn't understand why it was so grand. My mom went out early in the morning and bought all kinds of dishes he liked and carried them home in large and small bags. I couldn't help pouting because I was treated better than me. In the evening, my parents went out to dance in the square. Hugh and I sat in the small courtyard and looked at the moon. Jenny, can I ask you something? Say it. Why are you so formal? Please. Give me a home. In my stunned eyes. He knelt on one knee and held up a ring. Please. Marry me. Okay? Before I could react. Suddenly a group of familiar voices sounded. Marry him. Marry him. It was Dad. Mom. Yo-Yo. Ted. And the little junior sister who had become Ted's girlfriend. I nodded with tears in my eyes. Jenny. Witnessed by relatives and friends. With heaven and earth as matchmaker. I will be yours for all lifetimes. You can't go back on your word. I let him put the ring on my hand. And my heart was filled with sweetness. That day he kept holding my hand and wouldn't let go. Even when driving. He had to hold it all the time. I was a little embarrassed. Our hands are sweaty. He smiled. Are you shy just holding hands? Weren't you very generous in bed? I shook him off and wouldn't admit what he said. But I can't let you do whatever you want anymore. Otherwise, the child will blame me for being irresponsible. It took me a while to react and said in surprise. You mean, I'm pregnant? Judging from the pulse. It seems so. Only then did I remember that Hugh had also minored in traditional Chinese medicine in college. Just now at home. He held my hand and wouldn't let go. It turned out that he was taking my pulse. When I went for an examination the next day. It was indeed positive. Looking at Hugh's beaming face. I couldn't help being naughty. I snuggled into his arms and coquettously spoke in a soft voice. He was aroused by me. When he couldn't stop himself. I slowly said. The doctor said that sex is not allowed in the first 3 months. He gave me a deep look. I know. There are other ways. After going back and forth several times. I finally realized the reality. In this kind of thing. I always suffer more. Hugh's hand was on my still flat belly. I put my hand on it. And he quickly held it. 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 Quickly held it.